Na 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 Pulsecon. Da na 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 Pulsecon. Da na 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 leader. Da na 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 oops Pulsecon. What's up, dorks? How we doing? A Pulsecon this weekend, so it seemed like a good time to stop by and chat some robot reveals, huh? So I imagine the word on everybody's lips at the moment is legacy. We got our first little taste of the new toy line earlier in the week, and whilst legacy might be its name, I'm not convinced yet that that's what it's going to leave behind. Right, we got to see Bulkhead, we got to see Skids. Now the idea is it's taking things from other continuities, bam, jamming him into a Generations Chug-esque kind of style. From that first kind of set of photos, I wasn't super impressed. It seems like we've gone from being slavishly accurate to the cartoons to now we're going to maybe be super anally retentively loyal to the toy designs. It almost looked like someone had just gone in and bam, 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 turned like a G1 Skids into a sort of more articulated toy, which might not be a bad thing for some people, but it had me being a little unsure. And then when you look at Bulkhead, it's like, is that just a pre-tool? Are we going to see like Hound? Are they just going to turn it into Hound with a different head? That's my suspicion, because it just doesn't feel like a super faithful retelling of Bulkhead to me. Like, I think a lot of us were very excited to see some new Prime stuff making it into the main line. And I don't know about all of y'all, but that's not what I pictured. This isn't what I thought we were going to get. It looks to me like someone was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to make my own Chug Bulkhead. I'm going to get the old classic series Inferno, turn it army green, take a head of Bulkhead, bam, look, bickety bam, bickety Bulkhead. Look what I done did. But that was that. So when it came time for the actual, you know, the big show, the big smoke, the big reveals, Pulsecon live direct and in full effect, I didn't have super high expectations, if I'm being honest. So the first thing after they sort of revealed the sort of name and stuff like live that they got into was the new play pattern that we're getting, which is Energon Weapons, which feels very Energon Star to me from Energon. Energon. I can get behind that. I do like, you know, combiney, joiny, make your own mix and matchy kind of play pattern stuff that they've been doing for the last few years, so I can wholeheartedly get on board with this. My only issue is, like, the different characters with the different coloured Energons. Whilst it's kind of a cool idea that they have different properties, I think the end result is going to be a little bit like if you left a bag of Skittles on the dash of your car on a hot day, came back, and it's one solid colourful mess. The first new figure that we got to see was Rupaul's drag strip, and that looks fine. You know, yeah, Stunticons. I guess we're doing that again. From the looks of it, as it was spinning around like a record, there was no overtly obvious kind of combiner anything at play, and that just makes me think that when we get Commander, what the hell's his name? Motormaster, that I imagine it'll be like, you know, robot, and I'm pretty confident that his trailer will just end up folding out to be the Thin Man, and then he just kind of, bam, propagate it with the other Stunticons to make, you know, Menasaur, which is what a lot of third-party figures have done, and I don't mind. I'll do it. I'm hoping it'll make him in scale with, like, Devastator and Predaking, so they all look, like, wickedly menacing together. Fingers crossed. Then they busted out Prime RC, and I cannot believe that this is going to be a deluxe class figure. When you look at what we have been getting lately, then you look at that thing, it really isn't doing it for me. All I can think is that, again, we're getting a pre-mold. If this had been Transformers Energon RC, like from this mold, I would have been stoked, because that would have looked like her, and that's a glow-up from the original figure. But even when they were doing that animated progression to be like, can you guess who it is? Name that Pokemon! It was really, really clear to me that the kind of original toy line RCs that we got with Prime are in every way superior to this new one. Right? Like, I guess maybe a little less kibbly, but then that wheel comes off to be a really questionable thing. Just, I thought it felt like it should have been a core class. I thought maybe there'd been some kind of mistake, but there wasn't. there wasn't a mistake. I don't know. I can't imagine that we're going to see the aftermarket flooded with anybody's like robots in disguise and prime RCs anytime soon, right? Next we got to lay our papers on Kickback, and that figure to me reinforced what they're going for here, where we're no longer trying to get that supreme cartoon accuracy. Now we're going for quite faithfully updated versions of the original toys. And in Kickback's case, I think it kind of works a little bit better than it did with Skids. I know the couple of other Kickbacks that I've got, I like this new one more, so I will get this new one. Whether or not it fits in with the rest of your kind of Generations figures and stuff is yet to be seen. That aesthetic just doesn't quite seem to match. You know what I mean? You know how like the 86 figures look great with your Kingdom figures, but there's a difference. It's not a big difference, but you feel it more than you see it. Hopefully once we get the other two Insecticons, there'll be a little bit of the cheerleader effect and the three of them will look real great together. And then lastly, they dropped an updated version of one of my all-time favorite, one of my favorite iterations and reimaginings of Optimus Prime is that G2 laser convoy. I love that figure so much. I love it so much that I got the Ultra Magnus version that came out just because that mold rocks so hard. I can't think of a G1, G2 mold that has as much staying power as Laser Convoy. He's just so good. Look, here he is. Here's he's doing his thing. He's a cool guy. So, like, looking at this and then looking at what we've got, it's pretty clear that it looks to me to be a fairly heavy retool of Earthrise / Kingdom Optimus Prime, which I'm okay with. Like, he's got the matrix, he's got the chest, he looks the part. The only thing to me is some of his proportions, having gone off that, just feel just a little bit off. Like, his calves don't seem wide enough. Like, he's got a little bit of the Johnny Dramas about him. They could have a bit more heft to match that original bad boy. And then when you look at where the shoulders pivot up from, it's low. It feels a little bit low. If we have a look at the original bad boy, right, where that pivot point is actually quite high. So when he puts his arm up, it feels like these big boys, these Delts of Doom, are part of his arm. But on the newer one, it looks like it almost folds and pivots out from way down at the bottom. And to me, that makes it look a little bit less like they're his like beast mode shoulders and more like it's a little bit like Starscream's coronation, and he's been like, oh god, alright, it's the 90s. What was cool in the 80s doesn't cut it. Shoulder pads? Maybe it won't be as bad in hand, but just something about the articulation and the proportions on that guy just don't quite feel right to me. I'm gonna get it. Like, I'm gonna get him. And I'll get the inevitable, like, Nemesis Prime / kind of Scourge repaint that they do, because Laser Optimus Prime, Laser Convoy, he's just so sick. Look at it. Right? I don't need to tell you. You get it. You've got eyes. The last thing to talk about with him, though, is that trailer. So whilst it's cool that they have it, and it kind of has a similar vibe to what is going on the original, I did like that 90s, like, in-your-face attitude of having himself, like, graffiti arted on the side of the trailer. Like, it just being cast in that solid grey like that is missing some pizzazz. And obviously we'll get some, like, you know, toy hacks or repro labels or something to finish that off. But I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to buy extra bits from someone else to make the thing what it is in the first place. Then once we actually open it up, it has that kind of iconic shape, but it does seem to be really lacking when it comes to like built-in weaponry. Like, even if it had just 2 of the fold-up guns that you get off the side of it, that would have been cool. And I know you're obviously not going to have that, like, pump it, press the button, Mr. President rocket to fire off. But, I don't know, the way it was that little stand, like that, and that weird little pinching claw, I don't know if it's a vibe or not. I did like that it was seemingly, you know, just Swiss cheese with 5mm ports, so at least I guess you have the option to arm it up a little more yourself. Lastly, by way of getting to see some of the new stuff, they gave us a look at what the new packaging is going to look like and some of the, you know, like poster art for the series. I loved that new packaging. It's like very, very garish. It kind of put me in mind of like the old Kenner Predator figures. It had that sort of similar color palette and energy, and I'm all about it. I can't wait to look at those boxes and go, whoa, look at that card art. I wish that was my job. I wish I could do card art like that. You know I'm going to say it. I say it pretty well every time I look at one of those goddamn pictures. Do something about it, Ham. And then, in that kind of like, boom, legacy, portal, blah, 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 characters kind of thing, they sort of did potentially give us at least a artist rendering of some of the other figures that we're hopefully going to get. So some people are thinking that we're still going to see Blaster in Wave 4 of Kingdom, which we might. We might, and he might also then be a repack in the first wave of Legacy as well. Who's to say? But we got to see Blaster. We also got to see a little funny armed Hot Rod that kind of looked like a little bit like Kinder Surprise art, right? A sword, so that's cool, but he's going to be a core class figure, so that's probably going to be a little sword. Maybe you can pair it with someone else, like a dagger, get like a little two-sword fighting thing going. I don't know. I probably won't get it, to be honest, right? When you've got 86 Hot Rod and then Commander Rodimus, do you need a core class Hot Rod? Maybe you do. But then that poster art as well, we also got to see Skywarp, which is obviously going to be a recoloring of the core class Starscream that we got in Kingdom, which will make a lot of people happy if they were going for that. I'm going to have Seekers on the dash of my Seeker kind of vibe. Then that's a win for you. Again, I'm a little Seekered out. I'd love some cone heads, but the only cone heads I'm really rocking are the G2 ones and the Dan Aykroyd film on VHS. And then I think lastly, the only other newbie that we didn't get to see that they showed on that packaging was Iguanus, which does tell us it's going to be G1 Iguanus as opposed to Beast Wars Iguanus, which I'll take either. I don't think it's going to work as a pretender. I'm assuming that the bot mode will look like the pretender shell, and then it'll have some kind of afterthought stupid vehicle. We'll see. Time will tell. Alright, well now, other than, you know, saying that I really, really want to get the two Pulsecon exclusives, the Translucent Galvatron and Tripredacus Agent Ravage, right? We've seen them, there's been in-hand samples, people have played with them. That wasn't exciting news, but I do want them all the same. There is word that in Australia EB Games might be getting them, so fingers crossed on that one, because I want those sets. So if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching and joining me on unpacking this and, you know, giving me the opportunity to rifle through my own thoughts before I file it away in the old think tank. To everyone who has already liked, subscribed, watched, commented and all that kind of jazz, thank you so much. I enjoy it. I like this. I like the exchange. I like getting nerdy with it. No. I'm an idiot. See you on the next one.